Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 72 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David Howe.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Knisley.
And boy, oh boy, we got a very special guest for you this evening, ladies and gentlemen. The wonderful Amir Zamen is on the show, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing, Amir?
I'm good. I'm good. What's going on, fellas?
I had a little pause there because I almost just called you Maru-chan.
Yeah.
Which is your Discord name. But Amir is on the show today. We are going to be talking all about DLC and kind of Nintendo's approach and take on DLC, what they do right, what they don't do right, and then kind of just overall with the industry at large. DLC is very much here to stay. It is now a part of everyday gaming culture, and we're going to be talking about it in detail. I'm very excited to talk to you about that, Amir.
Cool. I'm happy to be here. Sounds fun.
Very good. Other than that, we got some news for you as well. Nintendo had an annual investor meeting. We'll be breaking that down. There's a summer update in Animal Crossing, and we'll be getting all into that at this point, infamous Pokemon Presents video that went up this past week. We got lots to talk about there. Other than that, how's everybody doing? We doing good?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Very good.
Yeah.
I completed my move. I am now in my new house, so the selfie will have a different background this time. How you doing, Amir?
I'm good. I'm mid-move myself. I may have just found a place, so I'm not on a couch anymore, which, looking good. Back in Austin, baby.
Oh, really?
I missed it.
Nice.
Welcome back.
Nice.
Yeah, welcome back. I had a fleeting thought this past weekend, which is if we're still in lockdown and COVID, we might not have Halloween, which means we might not have the Spirit Halloween Mega Superstore.
They'll still open.
Yeah, they'll have curbside dressing rooms. Yeah. But yeah, cool. That's good to hear. I'm looking forward to this talk. I know we've been playing a little bit of the new Smash DLC, so I'm excited to get into it.
Well, before we do the news, maybe we can mention last week's episode number 71 was with Papa Gino's on Smash Leaks. And thanks to Papa Gino's for sharing our podcast around because we got a lot of views on YouTube, especially. And there are a lot of people who made comments on YouTube. Quick shout out to a few of those people that are hopefully coming back to listen because of their comments, like Victor Oliveira, who said they were subscribing and high quality podcast. And they often shouted out Krakow for saying that they love watching our subscriber count go up. Handful of other people, can't get to them all, but Thomas Green, Dylan Owens, a bunch of people. Thanks for commenting on the video.
If you're here for the first time, welcome. We're glad to have you guys, and we finally hit 100 subscribers, so it's a pretty big milestone for us on YouTube. So we really appreciate the follows.
Yeah, and also Ant Keeps Gaming, as always, for sharing the podcast around and commenting on the YouTube video and stuff.
And kicking my ass in Smash last night.
I was going to say, and I'll have more to say about him later.
My favorite comment, someone who enjoyed our jokes and tangents about Blockbuster, the Super Mario Super Show.
That's right. Well, and if you're out there listening, we love to get those comments. And we'd love for you to share our podcast somewhere to help us out. So do that. And then we can talk all about the news. Lots of good news, like David said. There was that Nintendo annual investor meeting. And as happens with these sorts of things, they do a Q&A, and that comes out in Japanese. And then later it comes out with an English translation. So we're working off the Japanese thing. And what that means is the sort of like all the news outlets and people that translate these are the ones that we have to go from for now. Some of the things that have been going around include that Furukawa stated at this president that there currently has not been any impact on their software set to go for this year by the coronavirus, which is somewhat of a surprise to hear. But also maybe that there's a possibility that it could affect it, which is maybe why we aren't seeing more announcements.
Right. I imagine the stuff that's going to be most affected by coronavirus are the games that we don't know about yet. So there's really no reason to make a statement on that. Also, I did read somewhere that there might be a potential translation bit where they could be talking about the fiscal year. Yeah. So that could be all the way through March of 2021.
That's fair.
If that's to be believed. Yeah.
A couple other things that have been shared around is that he also made a statement about Joy-Con drift or Joy-Con troubles, a sort of apology, one of those sort of half-hearted apologies that says we apologize for any trouble caused to our customers is the way I've seen it translated. But that they can't really say anything because there's lawsuits going on.
Right.
Amir, how are your Joy-Cons holding up? Do you have the drift?
I have 3 pairs of broken Joy-Cons, I think. Yeah. It's mostly Smash, though.
That's hard on the Joy-Cons.
Do you play handheld Smash?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I got into that when I was like post-surgery, when I was just like on my back a lot. I would play Smash handheld quite a bit.
Yeah, it's real comfy.
And I imagine that's where some of the drift I got came from as well. I did finally put in an order to send my Joy-Cons into Nintendo, and I just got a tracking number for them.
Oh, nice.
So I'll be sending those in pretty soon. I'm kind of dreading it because it's like every Joy-Con I own, so I'll just be Joy-Conless for a period of time.
Yeah, mine that I sent in that got quote unquote fixed, it has come back with a vengeance in the last month or so. So
we better get a fat payout from that class action lawsuit. That's all I'm saying.
I want my 10 cents or whatever.
I want a fat 15 cents.
And then also at this meeting, it sounds like they confirmed or stated that directs are still their preferred method for communicating their announcements, but they're sort of open to different ways in the future as that, as if things come up and as things change. So I think we can expect a direct when they are ready to give one to us. How many do you think we're getting this year? 1 or 2?
For the rest of the year?
Total.
Just one. And then maybe a game specific one.
One coming up.
So 2 total.
Yeah.
You have to think we'll still get a September direct, because I think at least some of the stuff that they would have had in this June direct, they'll probably hold until then. Because they probably would have planned on us getting one in June and then one before the end of the year. So I think they got to roll all that into one. I feel like there'd be some like wasted work if they didn't do that, potentially. So I'm really hoping for it. I think it's interesting that they said that they're open to changing up the delivery method for information, though.
Yeah.
What do you think that could be?
Maybe, I mean, the sort of one-off Twitter announcement stuff, or just trailers, one-off trailer kind of thing out of nowhere, like Paper Mario.
What about a Zoom meeting?
With 50,000 people muted. Yeah.
All speaking Japanese. Yeah, I just think it's just, this is the pattern of Nintendo stuff, right? Is that they kind of set new trails for the way that people do things. Like everybody's doing direct style stuff, and then as soon as everybody else starts doing it, they abandon it. This is just like a very Nintendo way to go about it. So we'll see. I hope the directs are here to stay. I love them.
Maybe it'll all be in Labo. Like a VR set,
Into it.
And then in Japan, the charts there for physical video game sales, we have this information for the week of June 15th through the 21st now. And that showed that Animal Crossing finally got knocked off the number 1 spot to make way for The Last of Us Part 2, but that Nintendo has all the rest of the 9 slots on the top 10 right now in Japan physical sales. So Nintendo's killing it right now in Japan and elsewhere. But it's crazy that Animal Crossing is still that high. And talking about Animal Crossing, we got this information about it, the summer update that's coming out the day this podcast comes out, actually July 1st. Animal Crossing is going to add in swimming, diving, and like diving for sea creatures, and you get a wetsuit, and there's that otter guy. What's his name?
CJ.
No, it's a different one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
CJ's a beaver. Excuse me.
Yes. How wrong of you. Pascal is the name. Pascal an otter.
Like the wager.
Yeah, the wager. That's what you can, whether or not you should dive is, I tried to make a Pascal's wager joke. It didn't come through. I'm sorry.
Okay. I put you on the spot. That's not your fault.
It didn't come together. And then they also announced that there'll be another summer update coming in August. And the speculation there is that it will have to do with fireworks, because there were sort of fireworks in the background when they announced that. And I guess there has been firework events in previous Animal Crossing games. I'm not huge previous to this game. I'm not very familiar, but that's what I understand.
Just in time for the 4th of July.
Exactly. Right after.
In August.
In August 4th.
The 4th of July, the world's holiday.
Yeah.
In August.
Y'all excited about that? Is that going to bring you back? Is that enough of an update, the diving stuff, or is that...
I'll go swimming in my pals' ponds. Yeah, invite me to your island. I'll come over and do some swimming, do some grilling. I can't do it in real life, so please, dear God, invite me to your island.
I'm still playing every day, so this is just extra for me, man.
Nice.
Yeah, I've admittedly kind of stepped away from the game a little bit. We'll see. I mean, I just had a talk with somebody about the one remaining fossil that I need. So I might log in after for the first time in a couple weeks just to get that fossil. And if swimming is around, I'll jump in the pool or something.
You should talk to Amir about that fossil. Amir, don't you have 3 times every fossil?
I sold them all a while ago.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's all good. Matt Manchester told me he might be able to help me out. So
nice.
We'll see.
And then there's that infamous Pokemon Presents video that happened on June 24th, wherein they announced Pokemon Unite, a 5-on-5 team-based MOBA style game similar to League of Legends. And one piece of news that got shared around is that this is one of Nintendo's most disliked videos on YouTube.
It is the most disliked video on
It
YouTube
went up to be
Nintendo.
the most disliked video.
Yeah.
There you go. Did y'all dislike it on YouTube? Were you part of the many people?
I didn't, but thanks for reminding me. I should do it that now.
I didn't officially dislike it, but once I saw that everybody hated it, I'm into it now. I love it. I'm gonna be day one adopter. Yeah. I'm gonna play it. It's gonna be my game. I'm going pro in Pokemon Unite.
It doesn't look terrible, right? I think it actually looks like a pretty decent game. As far as MOBAs are concerned, that's not really my style of game. I've never really been into League of Legends. I've never been into Dota or anything like that. But this is a game that is made for China. You know what I mean? This is Tencent, the Chinese company.
Right. Credit to Papa Gino's for calling that.
Yeah, that's true. He totally called it last episode. But, this is kind of China's first exposure to Pokemon, really. It's kind of not been around there. And so it's in a palatable game format to a lot of people who play, Smite or what's that really popular MOBA in China? I'm forgetting what it's called right now, but it's made by the same people who are making this.
League?
So I think it's
League of Legends.
No.
Dota?
It doesn't matter. Arena of Valor is what it's called. It's also on the Switch.
Arena of Valor.
Yeah, Arena of Valor is the most popular game in the world because of China, and it's smart of the Pokemon Company to do this. I think people are just mainly upset because they saved this for a whole video by itself, and people really had their hopes up when they did the kind of week split on the announcements thing.
Yeah, and it's a cell phone game as well, and they showed gameplay of 5v5 people playing on their cell phones. It was a thing that happened.
Yeah,
that's so weird, David. I didn't know that this Tencent game company, they also make Arena of Valor, because that same company is working on a new Metal Slug, entering to the Metal Slug franchise called Metal Slug Code J.
Yeah, they also do Call of Duty Mobile, and they've been doing tons of mobile games that have just had incredible success. So I think Pokemon Company's just trying to get on that with the Chinese market.
That makes sense.
We got a interview in Game Informer and sort of an overview of Paper Mario, the Origami King. They interviewed Kensuke Tanabe is the producer of the game. They did an interview with him and kind of gave us some new screenshots and stuff. And I think some of the more interesting stuff that came out of this was that it indicates that it's like an open world game with exploration and different vehicles to move around in. So I don't know that means it's not linear, but at least you have some room to explore and kind of do some side things as you want. It sounds like it's a big game in that respect, at least. And they talk a lot bit about the battle system in this, and they have like a little paper mock-up that they made before they obviously did like the actual development. That's pretty cool to see. So that's worth checking out if you're excited about this game and want to hear more about it. How are we feeling about Paper Mario? Amir, are you into that game?
I've never really played them before, but like at this point, I'm just like, give me something. I don't care.
I hear you. Yeah.
This is all funny.
That's all we got.
It sounds great to me that it's more an open world game. It sounds like they're kind of taking that yearning that a lot of people have wanted Nintendo to do with a lot of their franchises and kind of the breath of the wildification of some of these games. I'm sure it's not going to be exactly like that, but making it open world is definitely a new idea for the Paper Mario series. So I'm interested to see. It's just funny that like they're making this game open world and everybody's just like, I just want it to be like classic Paper Mario. You just can't please fans, but yeah, I think it sounds great. I'm happy to see them try some new stuff with the franchise, and this sounds like it's going to work really well.
And then moving away from Nintendo into broader gaming stuff for the next few news items here. Cyberpunk 2077, they did a event, Night City Wire, where they showed off a new trailer for the game and did some interviews and announced some other related things, including like an anime. What did y'all think about this new trailer or this event? How's the game looking?
I don't know if this game is for me. That's what I thought. Yeah, because like I can't get into BioWare RPGs, and it took me many hours to get into Witcher. It took like 4 or 5 hours. But something about the massive amount of dialogue I can't get into, which is weird because I play Xenoblade.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah, but there's I don't know. I'll play it. I'll be honest. I'm going to play it. So
I am pumped beyond all fuck to play this game. Like seriously, like to me, I was watching this video and I was like, this looks like the best game ever made. Honestly, like just the breadth of detail in the world and the amount of characters that talk to you. And I watched both this presentation and like Q&As with some people like Alana Pierce, who used to be at IGN, did like a really lengthy Q&A just about her experience playing the game. And it's just sounding so promising to me. But again, like I'm a big fan of the cyberpunk genre. Like Snow Crash is one of my favorite books. Like I'm a big fan of Neuromancer and William Gibson and stuff like that, and Blade Runner, obviously. So this already has been one of my most anticipated games for the past like 5 years, just following the evolution of the development. And I just think it looks incredible. And I'm beyond excited for a Studio Trigger anime of Cyberpunk. I don't know. Have you guys ever seen Kill la Kill or Promare or any of the stuff that Studio Trigger has done?
No.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. They have such a cool style, and I'm really looking forward to that anime as well.
I think the more I watch the trailer or the gameplay trailer, the more I realize that I'm trying to shift my thinking as this is not a game to play, like but more of like a world to experience because it's very detailed. And that's trying to shift my attention and expectations as I enjoy the game differently than I would other games of this type.
I've actually tried to avoid everything since I saw the first like trailer because like I'm already into it, and I'm usually I'm usually like the type of person who like if I know something's going to be big and I'm not going to get to see it right away, I just read the spoilers. I don't care. Like The Last of Us 2 spoilers came out, I read them. I was like, I'm not going to play that right away. It'll be fine. And then, but this is the only time I'm like, I'm just avoiding it. I don't want to see anything. I just want to be completely blown away because I know I'm going to love this.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it looks pretty incredible. I think what I was taking away from some of the Q&As is that I think a lot of people think this is going to be like a cyberpunk Grand Theft Auto, where it's not really. I mean, you can like take any car you want, like in Grand Theft Auto, but this is really an RPG, right? It's like leveling up mechanics, it's battle mechanics, it seems like it's more like Witcher merged with Deus Ex than it is like Deus Ex merged with Grand Theft Auto, right? And that gets me really excited.
And also, I know a lot of people are confused that it might be like a FPS because it's from first person perspective, but I think that's because of the ability to modify yourself and like your vision and stuff like that is why they went with a first person perspective. Is my understanding. And so it's not really like a shooter. It's like you said, it's an RPG.
And it's also about like the consistency of the world and the consistency of the experience. Like, as far as I understand, like there are almost no cutscenes in this game. It's kind of like Half-Life 2 in that way, or Half-Life the original, where you have agency and you can look wherever you want. You can miss story beats if you're looking in the wrong place. It's just like, it's supposed to feel like you're in that world and you're in those shoes the entire time. And that just has me so excited.
And so there's this anime, obviously, but another game-based show that's coming out also on Netflix is the Cuphead show. And they just shared a sneak peek at that with a little bit of footage from it and interviews with folks. I think that will probably come sooner than the Cyberpunk show, though.
Yeah, that's not supposed to come till 2022, I think.
Yeah, so that's interesting too, right? That they're making an anime set to come out at least a year and a half after the game. Yeah.
Well, it's like the Blade Runner anime is coming out this year, which was announced whenever Blade Runner 2049 came out. It's like anime just takes time, yo.
There you go. So this Cuphead show was coming out. Have you all watched any of that? Looks cool.
It looks so fun. I'm really excited.
Yeah. I'm into it. Yeah.
I started rewatching Avatar, and I'm really excited
Me too,
to.
Dude.
Oh, that's great. It's so good.
Yeah.
And really excited for the TV show based on a game.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I just love that Netflix is like going all in on 2D animation right now. There's, I don't know if Titmouse is making this one, but I know Titmouse is making a ton of animation for Netflix, and hopefully we just kind of see a 2D animation renaissance out of this because it looks fantastic.
And then in some potential rumors that maybe nothing because of reasons we'll get into, Tom Warren from Verge, I believe, tweeted out some things that people found of a Fable and a Perfect Dark Twitter accounts that appear to be newish. And so everybody was thinking, we were already hearing rumors about those games. But then Aaron Greenberg from Microsoft Xbox said that no, those are just old accounts that have been inactive, and they're just
deflection.
Yeah, maybe nothing, but the fact that they commented on it at all, I don't know. It's interesting. Do y'all think this means anything, or is should we believe Mr. Greenberg?
I could see Microsoft revisiting the Fable franchise. It hasn't had a new entry in more like 10, 15 years.
Yeah, the 360. Right?
There's like a Connect Fable game that was pretty terrible, but like mainstream Fable.
I mean, Perfect Dark too. Like, when's the last Perfect Dark game? Like, that was when the 360 launched, right? Like, Perfect Dark would make for a great new game. Yeah.
As long as they make it more like the original, because that one that launched with the 360 was not good.
Yeah. I think they know that. For sure. They could just look at the sales.
And then in more Xbox news, potentially rumors, that is, Tom Warren also said that gave some potential specs about the Lockhart, saying that the CPU for it, and this is the budget Xbox Series X device,
Series S,
yeah, whatever maybe it is, that we haven't really officially heard announced, but is heavily rumored, that it's got a CPU that's faster than the PlayStation 5 and it supports ray tracing. And I guess this was to reassure people that it's not going to be like worse than the current gen or something, where there was some concern that it would like hold back the next generation. So I wonder when we're going to hear about that. Maybe in July at that Xbox thing, I guess, right?
I've been hearing August is when the announcement of that might be. I think people are expecting it in July, but I was hearing some rumbling on the internet that it might come a little bit later. I think that it would be smart for Microsoft to take their time and really stick the landing on the announcement of the Lockhart, because I think they were probably thrown off balance a little bit by the 2 PlayStation 5 SKUs. I think that they probably assumed there would be one PS5, and that having like the Xbox Series X and whatever the Lockhart turns out to be would be kind of an advantage in their favor. And now that it seems like the second SKU of the PS5 is the same thing, but without a disk drive, like seems like it's just as strong. They're going to have to really sell a really good reason why you'd want to buy this, less powerful version of the new Xbox.
Price.
I mean, it's got to be priced super competitively to work, but I mean, it also can't be underpowered, because it's like, why would you invest, if you're going to invest in a system that you might be playing for the next 6 years or so, you want to, probably get the best model out there. So
that's true. And then in some, I guess not surprising, but upsetting news, Jason Schreier, now over at Bloomberg, did a big article about the sexual misconduct allegations that are happening in the gaming world. And there's been another sort of Me Too moment, I think, beyond just gaming, but especially that's been happening in recent week or so, if y'all haven't noticed already out there. But gaming has been hit hard. And one big thing that happened is Ubisoft. There was a lot of allegations going around that they have been trying to sweep some sexual misconduct under the rug. And in fact, 3 people there who are pretty high up, including the creative director of Assassin's Creed, have been the most recent game, Valhalla, have been put on administrative leave, and they sent out a letter that's gotten leaked out to publications and stuff like that. An internal letter, I should say. So obviously this is all that weird mix of bad and good news that this is coming to light, but bad that this happens in the gaming industry, and in all sorts of industries. So I just wanted to bring it up and say, of course, we support, we believe women and that kind of thing. Like, it's good that these things are happening, and we're dealing with this as a society, and hopefully we can be better, people. That's my advice.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually didn't know about this news because I've been so busy following the Me Too stuff that's going on in the comedy scene.
Yeah, that's been happening too.
It's like, and in music as well. Like it's the like second wave, as to speak, of Me Too is officially in full swing, and it's like, the takeaway from this is that hopefully it's like, this is the, I don't think that like Me Too is going to stop anytime soon, but the hope is that like, because of this, it's like, this behavior stops in the future, and we don't have to be dealing with this 5, 10, 20 years down the line. I'm sure it's still going to come up. People are scumbags, but like, hopefully this is a really big wake up call to a lot of people in these industries to be like, you gotta, if not just out of self-interest, you need to be a better person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because your day of reckoning will inevitably come.
Yeah. And then we'll get into some Smash stuff. Super Smash Bros. Melee, a fan mod for the game called Slippy, I think that's how you pronounce it, is now it has rollback. And for anybody that doesn't know what that means, when it comes to like an online fighting game especially, there's 2 different kinds of approaches to dealing with lag, and rollback is generally preferred. And that means that characters would teleport around, and you would have precise inputs instead of the game slowing down to give everybody the exact same visual, which is what Ultimate has.
Right. And
this is just interesting because I think like there's a really great talk about this. And like, why don't Japanese developers, use rollback? And there's, some, I don't know. This is a whole aside that I'm getting into. Do you guys want to talk about this?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So, there's, this belief that like, especially, I think this is true in America as well as in Japan, but like if it wasn't made here, it's not good. You know what I mean? And I think rollback has kind of been attributed to Western developers. And so there's this belief that, in Japan, they don't use it because it's not made here. On YouTube, there's a guy, he goes by the name of Maximilian Dude, who's like a big fighting game streamer. And
I love Max.
Yeah.
He's great.
And he's got a really great video about this topic if you're interested in hearing more about why Japanese fighting game developers don't use rollback and that kind of thing. I just felt like mentioning all that because
it's just like I mean, obviously, cultural differences aside, like you should just do what's best for the game, right? Yeah. And it's like for instance, like I don't think that Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics uses rollback, which is ridiculous because it's board games. And it's like I'll be playing a card game with somebody, and if the other person is lagging, it's like the whole game gets really choppy as it's like moving a card across the screen. It's like, this is a game that does not need that at all. You know what I mean? Like it's seriously and I mean, Mario Kart doesn't use that. Right. I mean, Mario Kart is always buttery smooth because they have algorithms in place to like figure out where people would be if there is lag involved.
Yeah.
And Mario Kart Online runs really great because of that.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see Nintendo make use of this more. And
totally,
I guess this the rollback that's been added to Melee, like that's when you're playing it in Dolphin, I guess.
Yes, it's in the emulator. Yeah, it's like a specific version of it called Slippy of Melee, I think, of the emulated game. Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love to see this being adopted more widely in Nintendo stuff because, like, man, that's the one thing that's really holding me back from playing Smash Online all the time, or even Mario Maker. Like Mario Maker Online is like, if you just allowed the characters to jump around a little bit more, the online would be so much better.
Yeah, but we don't have it in Ultimate. But what we do have in Ultimate is version 8.0 and Min Min joining Smash Ultimate as of just last night, in terms of when we're recording this on the 29th. So before we talk about Min Min, I just have to ask you this. Have you looked at the patch notes, Amir? For version 8?
I've honestly been way too busy this week to keep up with any of these stories. But like right before we recorded, I saw that my boy Falco was buffed for the first time ever. I'm so excited to play him tonight. I'm going to go to town. I'm going to get stomped by some Min-Mins because I don't know how to play against them yet. But my up tilt connects. My up smash connects finally. The Fant side B works well. I'm so ready.
So if you're not a big fan of Smash Ultimate, they've been doing all these buffs and they did a lot of buffs this time. And Falco has always been ignored.
He's never gotten one.
Yeah, it's kind of been surprising because there's been some things.
Because he's already fucking good enough, Amir.
No, he's not. He's really bad.
Piranha Plant got some buffs too. So
nice. I haven't looked at the patch notes yet. I need to do that.
A lot of the mid-tier and lower tier characters got buffs, so that's good. That's good.
Cool.
And then we can talk about Min Min. So Min Min from ARMS is in Smash, and I know Amir and David, y'all played some last night, and I don't know if you've played any, Matt, but any thoughts on Min Min watching or playing with her?
Maybe we were talking about this in Discord. Like Min Min doesn't feel like a Smash character, and I say that for good reasons, because her timed for vulnerability is pretty large when she does like long attacks or attack far away. So she's both a close character who wants to stay up close and a far away character to keep distance characters, the word I'm looking for. But also has like this crazy vulnerability. So it feels strange to play as Min Min, but also pretty good in the limited time that I've played ARMS.
Yeah, I mean, what I saw, she felt like a zoner, but like with her fists. So it was kind of like what you were saying, like you're close combat, but you're still zoning. And like I don't know, it seemed weird, but every time there's a new character, people always are like, "What? This is breaking Smash," and then it'll be fine. Give it a week or two, you'll get used to it, and then it'll be fine.
It doesn't feel like she's breaking Smash to me, but I do agree with you, Matt, where she doesn't feel like any other character at all. Like it's controlling each arm with A and B is something that I didn't really wrap my head around in the Sakurai Presents. Like whenever Sakurai shows off the characters, I always kind of like zone out because it's like hard for me to really wrap my head around it. I can only really get a feel for it whenever I have my hands on the character. But being able to control the left arm with B and the right arm with A totally changes the game. And it's like, I found myself like when I play fighting games that aren't Smash on controllers, I find myself like using my index and middle finger sometimes just like mash buttons quickly. And I found myself doing that to get like both my arms out at the same time, instead of just using my thumb. So it's like, it just changed the way I played with her quite a bit. But I liked her more than I thought that I would, just from what I've tried so far. But it seems like a character with a really high difficulty curve to like kind of master. But I'm looking forward to playing with her more. I had a ton of fun getting smashed by Ant Keeps Gaming notwithstanding, because that really did break my stride. If you're listening to me, Ant, fuck you. But that was brutal. But yeah, I think she shows a lot of promise, and I'm interested to learn more about her.
Yeah,
I should also mention I don't have her yet, so I haven't played with her or watched anything about her. I just was playing last night, and then in the middle of something, I just see a fist come out of nowhere, knock me off stage. So
learning to play against her is going to be really difficult as well.
Zero had some nice videos too, if you want to see somebody at a high level play with her, where he just climbed to Elite Smash with her super fast on a new account and like just was destroying people.
That's great.
But I think I agree. Everybody with what all y'all said, that she feels different than anybody else in Smash without the special and with some of her the two arms, but it feels very true to arms, and that's what's cool about it. And I think we can expect more weird characters. Like that seems to be what they really want to do, is do different, unusual things with these DLC characters. So how
are they going to do Waluigi? That's what we got to figure out. How Waluigi
exactly how. That's what I was thinking about today when somebody's like, "I really hope one of them is Waluigi." He's like, "But that'll just be like a regular Smash character."
Not if he's hitting people with his goddamn tennis racket.
But I think unless anybody else has anything to say about Smash or any of the news items, we should move on and talk about DLC. So we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into DLC. And we are going to be talking all about DLC as a concept and about how Nintendo has approached DLC, especially in the Switch era, as our main topic today. So I'm sure if you're out there, you know what DLC is, but it stands for downloadable content, and it is extra add-ons to a game that come out after the initial release of the game. It's been around for a while now, arguably even like into the 90s or so, I think. But it's bigger than ever, and it's a really interesting concept, I think, to talk about because it's kind of unique to games. And then it's kind of changed over time, and there's some big picture stuff we'll talk about, and then we'll talk about Nintendo, and then we'll close out with maybe some additional big picture stuff. But
how crazy would it be if movies had DLC?
Yeah,
I mean,
and I was trying to think about
DVD bonus features,
director's cuts, bonus features. Yeah, that's like the closest analogy in some other medium I could think of, actually. But so there's free DLC and there's paid DLC, and I think that in and of itself is an interesting concept. There's DLC that's announced before a game gets released, DLC that gets announced after a game gets released. And y'all jump in here if you have any thoughts about any of this stuff.
And there are also expansions or expansion passes. You have something like the Trial of the Sword was the Breath of the Wild DLC. Mm-hmm. You have that, but then you also have DLC or expansions like Torna, Xenoblade Torna, which is a standalone game, but it's still like an expansion, and it's, $40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then on top of that, you're going to have like individual item DLCs, I think one of the first things that really gave DLC a bad name was like horse armor for Oblivion, right? Wasn't that like everybody kind of like thinks of DLC in terms of horse armor at this point, like, or with The Sims, how you have like, thousands of dollars worth of individual items that you can buy for your characters and whatever. Like that's the stuff that really gives DLC a bad name.
David, that's such a good point. How far we've gone from like people freaking the fuck out over horse armor, and now Fortnite, Apex Legends, all of it's just skins that don't add anything. Right. They're just cosmetics, which is what horse armor was, where people lost their shit. And it's so crazy how much people accept it once everyone starts spending their money.
We adapt pretty quickly as a human species, don't we?
And I don't think they're exactly the same thing, but they kind of are, in that microtransactions are a form of DLC. And
for sure.
So there's that issue too, which I don't think we'll dive into today, really. Maybe we'll touch on it, but I think...
we could do a whole episode on microtransactions.
But I think one thing to point out is that games have cost $60 for a long time now. Like, that's been a fixed price. It's like, imagine if movie tickets never really changed, but then they charged you for those extras after the movie or something, right? Like, I think DLC has been a way for game developers to charge more than $60. I think that's just something that should be pointed out.
I mean, from a like publisher perspective, like I understand, like games, especially now, like big AAA games, like are fucking expensive to make, and they've been the same price. Like you look back at like old Walmart ads from the 90s, like Star Fox 64 was like $75 or something when it came out, and that's in that times money,
right?
You know what I mean? It's like people aren't really willing to pay more than 60 for a game, so they got to make that money back somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it does sting to pay $60 for a game and then like buy DLC that's been like gated content from the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we can maybe at the end kind of get into the good and the bad more. But is there unless there's any other big picture stuff we want to talk about right now, maybe we can get into the Nintendo stuff. Nintendo in the Switch era has been putting out lots of DLC, and I think that's the inspiration for this episode. I think they've obviously dabbled in DLC before, but most of their first party games have some form of DLC, and a lot of it's been free. And then there's been a lot of paid DLC too, but they've supported games like Splatoon and ARMS and other games with this sort of rollout of free additional characters like Mario Tennis Aces and stuff like that. But then there's been a lot of paid DLC. And we can get into specifics, but any thoughts about DLC on the Switch and Nintendo's DLC either before or on the Switch? Big pick, broadly.
Yeah. Nintendo was like very reticent for a very long time to do DLC. I think they were the last like major platform or I guess developer to really jump on the DLC bandwagon. I think that there was even a statement from Iwata a long time ago saying that we don't do DLC as like a point of pride. You know what I mean? And I that all kind of goes back to the Nintendo mindset of, we're down to delay our games until the game is finished. You know what I mean? We want a complete experience when you buy the game. I'm not sure exactly where that changed or when that shifted. I mean, I think Splatoon like it was a major one, right? Where that game was like built around the idea of DLC and like content coming out over time.
Also, the Fire Emblems on the 3DS were DLC cash cows. They loaded with them, and they're all terrible.
Right. So, but I mean, I think for the most part, Nintendo has done a pretty good job giving you value for the money that you pay for DLC.
I think.
Would you guys agree with that?
I would.
Yeah.
But before I get into that, because I think that's a really great way to talk about it. But something you said, and I think that's like the idea of they wanted to have a good product rather than DLC. And I think it's one of the downsides, big picture of DLC, is this idea of like pushing out a game in a current state, and then we can add DLC to fix it, either free or paid. You know what I mean? And that's one of the kind of bad things about it. And I think you're right that Nintendo has done a good job, because the base game on all these games and that have paid DLC are great for the most part. Like, and the paid DLC is just icing on the cake, or as I think it was Jordan Willis on our podcast pointed out, like something for the really hardcore fans. Like, like think about like, I don't want to say I regret buying the DLC for some of the games, but I think I've learned that with Nintendo DLC in the Switch era, unless I'm just like super into the game and have beaten it, I may not need the DLC yet. You know what I mean? Like the Splatoon Octo expansion, I bought that and I was like, well, it's hard, and it's you know what I mean? Like I had enough of a time with the single player and just the online stuff that I was excited about it, but then it's like, man, this is for the person that like fucking loves this game,
Right.
I kind of feel that way.
I never got the Splatoon DLC because I never finished the single player in the base game.
There you go.
I was like all about like turf war and shit and like the online, like that's why I play Splatoon. So like, I was like, okay, I'm not as tempting as it is, because this sounds really fun and really difficult and like a challenge. I was like, I need to actually finish the single player before I sink in any money into this, and I still haven't. So no Splatoon DLC for me at the moment.
Yeah. I feel that way about like the Breath of the Wild DLC too. Like,
Yeah.
I bought that and I don't know. I had some fun with some of it, but I didn't complete all of it because I got so much out of just that base game. And then some of the, which the DLC addressed some of the issues of like the difficulty and stuff, but some of the challenges in the DLC are a little too hard for me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have the time to fight this monster now.
The thing I wanted most out of the DLC anyway was that ability to like track you wherever you go on the map.
That's pretty
like
sweet.
That, yeah, I wish that was in the base game, but that kind of makes sense that they thought of it later and they wanted to add that in.
Yeah.
Yep. I think circling back to your previous thought is like Nintendo overall has done a positive thing for DLC on all of their approaches. And even just talking Breath of the Wild, you know, we've had a variety of the different buckets that DLC falls into. We have free DLC with the costumes and the cosmetics. And then you have paid DLC like the Master Sword and, you know, the motorcycle that you get at the end. And I was like trying to think as David, as you talked about, you know, Breath of the Wild, it was like, if Nintendo could like fuck up DLC for Breath of the Wild, like what would that look like? What would that nickel and diming look like? And it might look like something like what they did for Mario Tennis, which was release a game that's not done quite yet, and then try to bring you back into that universe with updates, even if they're free.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that because I think why does that model work well for, say, Splatoon, or why did it work well for, say, Splatoon? This sort of free DLC updates, or Animal Crossing seems to be doing an okay job of
Mario
it. But
Maker.
Why didn't that work as well for Mario Tennis Aces? Is it because the base game felt lacking, whereas the others don't?
I think that's it. Yeah, where Mario Tennis just felt very cheap. And how much did Mario Tennis cost when it came out? Was this a full $60 game?
Yeah.
$60. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
So maybe that's why. Maybe it's not worth the 60. Maybe it's worth 40.
Yeah.
With like DLC coming later. Even if Nintendo set the expectation where they said we will release free DLC throughout the next year.
Yeah. Mario Tennis Aces, this is totally an aside. Like, I think the gameplay of the tennis match is super great, but the character models and animations aren't great. And then the single player mode was kind of boring. And
yeah, that's the problem. It didn't have a compelling enough single player in order to justify the $60. I think it's worth buying Mario Tennis Aces now for $60. You know, I think with all the free DLC they've put out, I think it's a pretty good value proposition. But I definitely felt cheated out of a game a little bit when I bought that, because I bought it on launch day. I'm a big tennis fan in general, and I've loved all the Mario Tennis games. And my favorite Mario Tennis game was for the GBA, where it had like a full story mode and everything like that. And I thought it was going to be like that, you know, and then it really wasn't. And it was kind of like a crutch for them, I think, the DLC. Did you ever play Mario Tennis, Amir?
They had like a free weekend. I played it a little bit. I was like, this is neat, but I couldn't get hooked.
Yeah.
Fair. It didn't hook me either. Yeah.
I think it's been interesting too that Nintendo has occasionally just added weird DLC to games for free randomly. Like, you think about like Mario Odyssey, when I don't know when it was, maybe 6 months, maybe longer, maybe even like a year after it came out. Correct me if I'm wrong. They just added that Balloon World thing. You know what I mean? Just like added a little mini game into the game. And
well, I've got a theory about that. I think that they originally wanted to do paid DLC for that game, realized that the scope was too expansive, turned it into a sequel, which is what they've been developing this whole time. And they were like, well, we might as well put in this extra mode that we were going to put in with a paid DLC and just give it out for free.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I've always thought about that game. I thought it was crazy that game never had new worlds added. So I think that was more like, okay, let's give them something while they wait. You know what I mean? Extend the life of this game a little bit more, since we aren't going to be adding more levels.
Yeah. I think maybe also what you're saying, David, is that DLC maybe wasn't part of the plan. Paid DLC wasn't part of the plan for Mario Odyssey until like until the very end, where they're like, yo, maybe we should think about doing DLC. And, you know, to your point, someone was like, no, let's just make a whole new game because we didn't plan for it. We can't do it. So let's throw some skins and put the Delfino shirt on Mario.
We'll see.
I think that
maybe they'll never make another Mario Odyssey, and this is totally wrong. But that's been my theory.
I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but there's just been some interesting DLC things they've done. Like similarly, like a long time after this game came out, after Captain Toad came to the Switch, they had added paid DLC kind of out of nowhere. Like sometimes when they announce the game, they'll be like, and there will be paid DLC later, like Fire Emblem. Like, you know, they did that with that game and some of the other ones, but it's just weird when they're like, oh, and now there's a $10 expansion for Captain Toad. It just felt out of place. It didn't.
Well, that game was only $40, so it's not the end of the world for Captain Toad.
And it didn't inspire me to want to get it because that's another game where I beat it and I was like, that's enough for me. You know what I mean?
In addition to that, there's also games that we have expected to get DLC that never have.
Yeah.
Right? Like Mario. I mean, obviously, the elephant in the room is Super Mario Party.
Yeah.
Like that game launched much like Splatoon 2 did or Mario Tennis Aces did, where it felt very feature incomplete when it shipped. And so everybody just was like, oh, well, they're clearly going to be adding some free DLC down the line to give new boards. And then they just never fucking did. They went on and made Clubhouse games instead. You know? And so it's like, it's just kind of baffling. It's like, it's so weird that we've come to expect it so much that when a game is just kind of bad, we like assume that it's supposed to be good eventually. You know what I mean? It's probably a pretty toxic mindset to have, but
you look at this list we have here in our show notes of games that have DLC, and it's most of the first party games for the Switch. Like that's why, and a lot of them had some sort of free DLC, or not all of them, obviously, but like, so when a game does launch like that, they've led us into this assumption that like, well, they'll probably add something or patch something in. And then when they don't like that, it was very striking. And same with Odyssey to some extent, right? Where we have this expectation from Zelda and some of the other games that like they're gonna give us an expansion of a couple worlds for sure. But then they never did.
Amir, as a big smasher, what do you think about Nintendo's model for Super Smash Brothers DLC? Do you think that's been successful so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think the numbers speak for themselves, really. It's one of the most, it's like the most successful one, I think. I mean, I haven't checked on it lately, but I mean, I think fighting games are like a whole other beast, though, because it's like a new character is something like that completely changes the game, right? Like in shooters, it's like, oh, a new map. Okay, this is like whole other like playing field now, like literally. But I'm loving it. The season pass I think it's a great model. It lets you know right off the gate, like you're gonna get these characters. You're gonna get so many characters. You know what to expect. And then on top of that, with the free DLC, the fact that they keep rolling out these patch notes, these updates, like balance changes and all that stuff with Smash, and then with like pretty much every other game that they've been making. Like you get the free updates, you're expecting them now. Yeah, like you were saying. But
yeah, we hadn't talked about Smash yet. That's right. That's a big one. That like it's a moneymaker, like Amir said. They're these passes, and that's why like we were talking about last week. Will they do a third one? The money might drive them to, you know, like
if the engagement is still strong. I mean, I'm sure they've got like numbers on who's still playing the game, but if people are still playing at the same rate that they are now, like 2 years from now or whatever, I would imagine they would. I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, other than to give poor Sakurai a fucking break for once. But I mean, I as far as Smash goes for me, like last night, like maybe we can talk a little bit about like seasons passes, right? Okay. Because like last night, it had been so long since I purchased the seasons pass one for Smash that I kind of like forgot that I had to buy something for midnight. You know what I mean? Like I was kind of thrown off. I was like, oh shit, wasn't quite prepared to drop $30 right now, but this is coming out right now and I need to play with this character. Like that's something that Nintendo has done a lot, like with Fire Emblem, and with Zelda, where they'll be like, hey, we've got these 2 rounds of DLC. We're hoping that you'll buy everything now and eventually get it later. Do you think that that's like a fair model for DLC, or do you think that because it kind of sucks to like, especially with something like Smash or with Fire Emblem, where they don't tell you exactly what it's going to be when you're buying it. You just like have to put faith into the company and hope that it's going to be worth your money down the line? Like, what do you guys think about seasons passes?
I trust Nintendo with it a lot more than I trust any other company. Like I know one of the first ones I got was the BioShock Infinite season pass, right? Like at launch. And I mean, that was pretty good DLC, but you know, you really were like rolling the dice on that. Cause like that could have gone either way, really.
Going back to Rapture was really great.
Yeah.
Though. I was like that. It totally did. They followed through with it because it was like a whole brand new environment.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
They knocked it
like
out of the park,
story,
but like there was a chance they weren't going to. And like, I definitely was afraid of it for a while.
Amir, what you're saying is that you trust Nintendo to deliver on what they're promising. And like, this is similar to like the Kickstarter model to where I'm going to give you my money today. If you promise me you're going to deliver sometime.
They've been good with it. So yeah, no, I'm just like, they've shown that they do it right. I mean, for the most part, I mean,
Yeah, but they're gonna fuck it up one day though, man. Like they're gonna fuck it up royally and it's gonna ruin the whole goodwill they've built.
Fire Emblem is notoriously bad for DLC. Like the hardcore fans might still like it, but like I always skip those ones. I love Fire Emblem, but I'm like, I'm not buying a swimsuit for Edelgard. I don't care. You know,
I did buy the Fire Emblem DLC, and it's another one I don't know if I say I regret it because I did. It's if you do really love the game, it does have a 10-ish hour side story that you might enjoy, but it was freaking hard. Like the difficulty spike to it was just ridiculous. And so I didn't enjoy it as much because of that, you know? But I hear you that like, I think they delivered okay on this Fire Emblem DLC, but it was maybe a little weird because it was that same thing y'all are talking about of like, it came out like 9 months after the game or something, you know, or give or take. And like the meat of it, that is. And so, yeah, you had to have that faith. But it also kind of makes it exciting to not know. And when it's Nintendo and you do trust them, that's cool. And the Smash hype around these character announcements, how boring would it be if they're like, here are the 6 new fighters and we got excited then, and then we had to wait months and months for them to come out, you know?
I mean, it's my favorite part is the character reveals. I love that. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
I just think like with that model though, they're opening themselves up to the inevitability of someone being like, I put money into this and then I feel gypped because I didn't get what I thought I was going to get. And then some sort of fucking like lawsuit happening or something like that. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like I you know, and we already have that. We've seen that a lot of times before with like, you know, digital refunds, like, you know, because you can't resell your games, but a lot of times like people like want refunds, and that's even been argued and won in court in Europe in a lot of places. You know, I think that inevitably, to me, it feels like DLC is like a ticking time bomb. It's like we've gotten to a point where we're very comfortable and we expect, and the quality's been good, but all it's going to take is one thing. And then I think that the whole model is eventually going to change, or at least we'll find some sort of middle ground that it'll eventually fall into.
Has anyone played the Pokemon DLC yet? Because that's the first Pokemon DLC we've ever gotten. And I've read mixed reviews, but I've read mixed reviews about Sword and Shield in general. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of how I take it too. I have not played even the base game, but it kind of seems like it's stuff that should have been in the base game, but it is a nice, good stuff. And you know what I mean? Like, so.
I think it's like what you were talking about, like with what Jordan said. It's like the hardcore sweaties are going to be the people that are getting this, and like regardless of what it is, they just want more content anyway, right? So like they're going to enjoy it. I don't think that like, you know, Pokemon is like the biggest franchise in the world. I can't imagine that this DLC was bought by that many people. I think like because Pokemon is such a casual game, I think most people are satiated with the base game. And then the people that are going to be buying it are going to play it regardless. I mean, Pokemon players are like self-flagellating to begin with. I mean, they grind for fucking days to get shiny Pokemon. Like, I don't think that they're going to complain about lackluster DLC personally.
I think, David, what you're alluding to is like, how do you measure value in DLC? And some of it's like personal, whereas like Smash, I'm happy to give $30, which is half of the cost of the original base game for 5 characters, which is wild because sometimes, you know, we're playing like $5.25, $5.50 per character when the base game, we're paying like $1.25 per character if we're if we're averaging out the dollar amounts. But I'm happy to, because I like Smash, whereas there are some other franchises where I'm not okay paying $30 with for DLC.
I view paying for DLC as like a GoFundMe for Sakurai's medical bills. That's how I see it personally, and that's how I'm okay with it.
Smash is going to end up with 100 fighters. I'm going to buy every single one of them. I'm only going to play 5.
Just Falco.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is like this like sense of like when a new character comes out, you're like, I'll play it for a little bit, and then you're like, okay. So
that's true. That's been pretty much the case for every fighter from Smash so far. Is like I play it the day it comes out. I play online with you guys, and I have a really great time. And then I just like don't touch the character ever again.
But I gotta have them all.
Wait, I gotta fix Sakurai's wrists, man. Come on.
I think there's a word for that describes us. We're suckers.
You're talking to a guy who's bought the original Super Mario Brothers probably like 8 times. Like,
well, what do y'all think then? Is there anything in terms of the Switch era of DLC? Obviously, they said kind of early on that they wanted to focus on doing more DLC for the Switch, and they obviously have, and they've done pretty well. Is there any other thoughts about that before we move on to maybe some, closing thoughts and some bigger, broader DLC issues?
I mean, I would love to see expansion passes follow a similar model to what Torna did for Xenoblade, where it's a base game, it expands the story, but it can still stand alone on itself. It's not $60. I think it came out as like $40. But you can still play it as part of it. But if you wanted to buy like Xenoblade 2, you can also get Torna for like a cheaper price. You save like $10. So I would love to see that model kind of expand a little bit more to other games.
For me, and I think with Nintendo, I think that it's a constant struggle between, do we make DLC for this game or do we make a sequel?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Breath of the Wild 2 is, right? Like they said that they had ideas for DLC for Breath of the Wild, and then it just got way too big, and they were like, all right, fuck it, we'll make a new game. I guess my question for you guys is like, would you prefer more time be put into what would be DLC and have that be fleshed out into a full game, or would you rather expand the game that you currently have? And I guess that also kind of comes to like a question of whether or not, this model of like games as a service versus like individual games coming out. Like, what do you guys prefer when it comes to that?
That's such a hard question to ask, because with so much content out there, if a DLC comes out 3 months, 6 months, 12 months after initial release, I might not come back to it because I forget how to play the game.
Yeah. Especially like RPGs, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so it depends on the release schedule of whatever that game is. I'm thinking of Smash. Smash, I can easily pick up, play the new character. It's pretty quick. Whereas, a game I'm thinking that has bad DLC, which is like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which has a whole new chapter, but they also release mini games, and it's not like a great game to revisit 3 or 4 months later.
I'll say I'd rather have DLC than play a brand new game called like Clubhouse Games 52 Worldwide Classic.
Yeah, it depends on the game. I think, like Amir was saying, DLC in a fighting game feels different than like DLC in other genres. And I think like a party game or a board type game where they could add more boards, or there's something about paying for like a known thing like that. It's fighters, even if you don't know who they are, or it's maps, or it's boards or whatever, versus like a nebulous side story that maybe I would have rather them just made a sequel that was more fleshed out and waited or something.
Do you guys think there will be Animal Crossing paid DLC?
Ooh,
I think there might be.
Maybe. I don't know.
I would be surprised if there wasn't.
Yeah, I would too, with the amount of units that they've sold.
Right.
Like, it's an untapped fucking, ticking time bomb waiting to go off.
If you give me more storage space, I'll pay for it.
That would be so scummy, though. That would be so scummy.
But I would fall for it. Like, that's the thing. I am a sucker. Like,
Yeah, we established that.
Dude, people spend thousands of dollars in The Sims. I mean, look at fucking free to play cell phone games. Like, that's the entire model is paid DLC, right? That's the only way they make their money. And this is where the whales come in, right?
Yeah.
The people that spend like thousands of dollars on this shit. And it's like, I think that they would be crazy not to do it in Animal Crossing. Maybe it'll be like a year after the games come out, right? Like
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's like where it's starting to die down. I mean, it's already starting to die down, but when it's like really starting to die down, add in like a new island that you can own or whatever, or I don't even know what they would do for paid DLC.
I don't either.
But it's like, it seems inevitable. It just seems like such a wasted money opportunity for Nintendo to just give out free DLC for Animal Crossing, even though that's the model that they clearly put forward at the beginning.
I mean, the next DLC for Animal Crossing will be Animal Crossing Cross Pilot Wings, and you can fly your plane.
Dude, fucking why'd you have to say that, Matt? Dude, I'm going to buy 10 copies of that game for me and all my friends.
I was going to say, I think your year thing is right, because something that they said in one of those summer announcements sounds like they have a year's worth of updates coming. And then I think because it sold so well, they're going to do something that maybe beyond that to be an option that you buy.
Yeah.
But I think we've talked about a lot of the big DLC issues through just talking about it. But a few that we didn't talk about are sort of, because Nintendo doesn't really do this, the pre-order bonus with like when you buy the DLC, like, or that there are DLCs that are tied to pre-ordering games. And I think those are kind of scummy. Not a fan of
Those
that.
are very scummy.
Yeah, especially like retailer specific pre-order bonuses.
oh yeah, the day one DLC where you have to buy it and
Yeah.
to get stuff that's already loaded in the disc.
Yeah, exactly.
The skins that are unique to a retailer, you have like your orange camo skin if you pre-order from Amazon, but a baby blue camo skin if you get it from Target.
And we kind of talked about what the correct release window for a DLC is, because I think you were talking about that, Matt. If it's too far out, then it's, I might not get it. But I also find myself, if it's too soon, I get excited about it and buy it, and then I don't need it. That's what I was talking about with some of those other ones.
Yeah.
And then I think we kind of hinted at this too, but in terms of the pricing structure of DLC allowing the industry to make more money, but not just that. I think DLC can provide cool ways, and it's not often utilized like this, but to have a more flexible pricing structure for people where in theory, you could make your base game cheaper and then have some things be, if games were priced this way, it would feel consumer friendly, like a $20 game and then a $20 expansion to that game, that, you know what I mean? And that kind of thing. And episodic games being lower priced and that kind of stuff, so that, or a la carte things. I think there's cool things that DLC could do that it's not always doing.
Something that I always come down to as well, and I thought of this when you were talking about the BioShock Infinite DLC, Amir, is that like, yeah, like I got that on my PC. I played BioShock Infinite on my PC, and then I bought the DLC as it came out. But if I'd waited 1 year or 2 years, I could have gotten the BioShock collection with all 3 games with all the DLC, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like, that's another thing too, is it's like an early adopter sort of thing. It's like the early adopter tax of like paying for the DLC, because always, if you wait a little bit, you'll get a Game of the Year edition with everything in it.
Yep.
I mean, I just played Fallout 3 Game of the Year edition, and like, I think their DLC was great, but that game's 12 years old,
right?
Like,
Yeah. Another reminder to be a patient gamer, because you'll get more for less.
But I guess you're like paying for the experience of connecting with your friends, and the cultural zeitgeist of that moment of everybody playing it at the same time. I guess that's kind of what that tax is.
Yep.
Hype has a price,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about most stuff on our notes. Obviously, we could talk forever. Does anybody want to share anything else on DLC before we move on? I think
I'm curious, like, what's the threshold for each of you of like when you're willing to spend the money and like when you're not, and maybe describe like what type of DLC that might be.
Yeah,
that's a hard question. To answer.
It's very specific.
It's so game specific. Yeah, exactly. It's like it depends on a few things. It depends on like how much value I got out of the game in the first place, hype level, and value proposition.
Yeah,
right. It's like it's those three, and it's like, and if all three like line up, I'll usually buy it. But like I love Breath of the Wild. I think Breath of the Wild is one of the best games I've played in a really long time. I haven't bought that DLC. I haven't really I didn't see enough value proposition in me buying that. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, instead of buying the DLC for that game, I'll get like 3 indie games, which I got enormous value out of. So it's like, it's such a specific personal thing that it, and it differs from game to game, that it's kind of hard to answer that question, unfortunately, I think.
Yeah. I agree. It's how excited I am about the game, either in advance or in the moment, as to whether I'll buy the DLC.
I give into hype though, man. Like with Smash, it's like I don't want to be left out of that conversation. You know, I want to know how Min plays, you know, regardless of how what I'm gonna do. And it's also with Smash, it's like if I have people over, I don't want to be the schmuck that doesn't have DLC characters. Totally. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, I gotta play with whoever from the base game, like a scrub.
I'm Min main, and if you had bought the DLC, I'd be winning right now.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be in that position.
And I mean, even some of like the scummier DLC practices, like microtransactions, like I've fallen victim to it a few times. Like I've bought in loot boxes in Overwatch. You know, I had a year where I played a lot of Candy Crush. You know, I've done it, but
very brave of you to admit that.
Hey, you know, I only spent like $15. I swear.
All right.
But you know, I'll do it if like I'm playing the game a lot and it seems like, well, okay, I might as well kick him a couple bucks. Like I got it. I'm not starving right now. Be fine. Get some enjoyment out of it.
If a game is free and I've gotten a lot of time out of it, I'll buy some just to support. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I was just stuck on a level for like a month, but you know.
So you bought your way to victory.
I play to win, baby.
You have to in Candy Crush at the higher levels, I understand, right?
Look, we can get into it if you want, but like,
no. I mean, you have a good point. There's so much that we didn't talk about with this topic. Yeah. Like, it's such a vast topic, and it's like, and yeah, I'd love to get into microtransactions and paywalls in the future, in like a future episode, because I think that's a whole unique discussion unto itself.
Cool. Well, we'll save that for another time. But if you're out there listening and you have some thoughts on anything we said about DLC or anything we didn't say, we'd love to hear from you. Share those thoughts with us. And with that, we will take another brief break and come back and talk about all the video games that we've been playing in the last week or so. I wanted to say that first off, I beat Kunai this week.
Nice.
What'd you think of the boss?
Yeah.
How long did it take you?
Like I said last week, because y'all warned me the boss was hard, I used some guides to find all the heart pieces I hadn't found, which I think helps a lot on that final boss.
Yeah, because it's like a boss rush kind of thing.
It wasn't that bad for me. It wasn't easy. I'm not saying that at all. I definitely had to play it, I don't know, 50 times or something like that, you know? Like,
hold up. You just catch me.
I didn't play it 50 times.
I don't know.
50 times. It was 48 times. I'm fucking awesome at Kunai.
No, I don't know how many it was. More than I really don't know. But like, it took me a while. But it didn't feel too hard. Like it wasn't a problem that, you know, I didn't feel super frustrated or whatever. And I also I think one of the problems with that final boss, I had there's 2 phases, and the second phase was particularly hard. And at the end of the first phase, you pick up their weapon, and I didn't realize that. Like, I kept fighting them, and they kept throwing their weapon, and it would get stuck in the wall, and I kept hitting them and being like, when is this going to end? And then I would accidentally pick it up until I realized that there was an indicator when I got near it that's like push up and you pick up the weapon. I'm like, oh shit. So anyway.
You're just not smart enough, Patrick.
50 times. And then
5-0.
Speaking of the topic we were discussing of like buying something for hype, and we were talking about this on the break. Well, I bought a long time ago Into the Breach, and I decided to start playing that after I beat Kunai. And I don't know that it's a game for me. I may.
Oh, really? I love that game.
It's really good.
I just. Maybe it's the whole I suck at games and Kunai took me 50 times because I'm also like I do not know what to do. I just get beaten. I've really only played for like 30 minutes, but I just lost 3 times in a row. And it's like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here, you know?
Right.
It's a combination of 2 genres that I don't play a ton of. So maybe that's a problem. Sure. And then, we all played Smash Ultimate, and I wanted to mention Ant Keeps Gaming kicked our asses. Shout out to you.
I thought he was all talk until last night, and then I realized he's actually pretty good.
At the end of the night, we started doing some 1v1s when it got down to just like 3 or 4 people, and it's like, all right, play your Piranha Plant. I want to play you as Plant against your Piranha Plant. And he's like, I haven't played Piranha Plant in ages. I should be doing a British accent, and he just.
I haven't played it in ages,
and
mate.
then he just defeated me.
Sorry, Ant.
And I was like, oh. And then he beat Chrono as Kirby v Kirby. He just like beat us all with our mains back to back. So it was kind of like, you're pretty good.
It's he studies the amiibo training that he does and just like watches the game tape and becomes really good.
So Ant, I would love a rematch. And then one of you take it away.
Everybody subscribe to Ant Keeps Gaming on YouTube.
Yeah, there you
go. Your boy has been playing Xenoblade. Finished the story, and I forgot how much that I connected to the story, like the overall narrative and the theme of what it really means. It got me existential, in how I feel about the world and what I think about why we're here. But it was just a reminder of like how good that story is and how good that narrative is. And now I'm playing Future Connected. I'm about 2 hours into it, and it's so fun, and it's like really cute, which is very strange. It's just really nice to be back in that world, to play it and to play like a new game. But like you can obviously tell, maybe we talked about this in another episode, but like DCD talked about this, like there are obvious time between the voice actors. They got older. Because they don't quite sound the same, but they still use the same battle sounds and the battle speak and dialogue. But outside of that, it's like it's new dialogue and different like voice tonality.
That's pretty funny.
But it's pretty great. I've been playing nothing but Xenoblade.
Wow. So are you done with the Future Connected part?
No, not yet. I'm only about 2 hours in. I think it's like 10 hours, give or take.
Okay, cool.
We'll see.
I haven't been playing too much this past week because I've been working and moving quite a bit. But I did have time to play a little bit of stuff. I played some Clubhouse games today with Jordan Willis. And so fun to play those games online. What else? I've been playing more Star Wars Racer. That game is so fun. They did patch the game since it came out. There were issues with the motion controls in that they weren't actually in the game when it released. And so they patched those in, and the motion controls like aren't my preferred way to play, but it is really, really cool to have that option. And that kind of like futuristic racing game is a really good style of game to have motion controls in. So I've been really enjoying that. Also the old cheats work from the N64 and the debug mode and everything. It's all still in there. So it's fun to fuck around in that game quite a bit. But the one new game that I did play was the Duke Nukem 3D World Tour, which I got for $5 on the eShop. And man, that is how you do a port on the Switch. That game runs so well. It's like fully expanded off of the original game with new voice acting, improved graphics, new levels. It has online matchmaking. It's got gyro controls. It's just like fully fleshed out. And it's, if you buy it within the first week, I think if you go on the eShop now, it's still only $5. It's such a bang for your buck. I mean, I'm a fan of old school Doom style shooters, and that style of shooter from the early FPS era. But they just like packed it with features, and I really, really recommend the Duke Nukem port on the Switch. It's a lot of fun, and it's just fun to play against people online. You can do co-op online, and you can do matchmaking for versus, and yeah, it's a great time. I really recommend that. It's funny that it came out on the same day as Star Wars Racer, which is just a straight port with no additional features for $15, and then this is $5, and it's just like packed to the gills. So it's interesting they came out on the same day, but they're both worth playing if you want some nostalgia.
Sweet.
Amir, what about you? What have you been playing, man?
Yeah, I mean, I've also been really busy, so I haven't been gaming too much. I just play I'll do my Animal Crossing chores on the bus, and then Smash. Obviously, always playing Smash. Ant, you started 1v1ing after I left. I know you're scared. It's okay. I got a few people in Austin that haven't 1v1 me before, and I'm gonna go to town once town opens up. But the other big game I've been playing, maybe you guys have talked about it before, is Tonight We Riot.
We haven't.
It's made by some people in Austin, so it's a local game. It's distributed by Means TV. Yeah, it's just like a beat 'em up game, but it really shakes it on its head. It's not about the individual. You play as the collective mob going after and tearing down businesses and cops and stuff, and just it's like a workers' rebellion game. It's a very
political game, right?
Leftist. Yeah, it's a very leftist game, but it's just super fun, and it's like if one of your guys dies, you're all right, well now the mob just takes over. You just kind of control another one. It's all about just solidarity and the movement building, and it's just fun as hell.
Sounds like it's very of the time right now.
It was released months ago.
That sounds cool.
yeah. They saw this coming.
Yeah. It's super fun. It's the music's great. It's just, oh man, I think it's $15 on the eShop. It's good.
Yeah. And that's also a part of the, that big itch.io bundle. If you did end up purchasing the racial equality bundle, it's on PC under that.
Nice.
Before we end, the one game that I won't be playing, but that released today, June 30th, 2020, is Little Town Hero for PC.
New giveaway. We're giving out Little Town Hero codes for Steam.
Please take them. We have a surplus of Steam codes. We need to get them off our shelves.
Oh, man. Well, I think that's it then. Thanks so much, Amir, for coming on. Finally, glad.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you finally on.
Yeah, thanks, Amir.
It's good talk.
Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. Sorry we did not play Disney Tsum Tsum Festival, Chris McKeever.
Any day now.
So sorry.
And if you want to find me, Patrick, online, I am PDYX most places.
I'm Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Amir? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at YesThatAmir. I mostly just shitpost though and retweet socialism stuff. So if you're into that, I'll follow back. It's cool.
Nice.
Very good. Well, if you want to find our show on social, we are at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We are at Switch Headz on Twitter. Make sure you join our Facebook group. It's Switch Headz with a Z, all caps. And join our Discord as well. We got links for that in the Facebook, and we should have links for that on our social as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Super Switch Headz about DLC. I had a great time with this topic, and like we said, this is a huge topic. We can get a lot more into the minutia of some of this concept in future episodes, and I'm looking forward to that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for listening every single week. We'll be back next week with another great episode. We love you very much. Keep fighting the good fight out there, everybody. We're making change happen. Keep washing your hands. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.